Hello again, class. This is our second lecture for the first week. And we are going to be talking a little bit about John and Julie Gottman. The reason why they are part of this curriculum is because the Gottmans are um, kind of royalty within the mental health profession and marriage and family counseling specifically. They are our contemporaries. And that doesn't mean that they started working, 10 years ago. They have been working in the field for over 30 years, and they have been, once again, very high contributors to our field. And since this class does focus on marriage and family, then there's really no way to do that without using the Gottman's material. John and Julie are what would consider now a power couple. They are both very devoted to their work, highly intelligent individuals, and have dedicated their lives really to the research and the clinical work with partners, with marriages, right? So they are both world-renowned clinicians. In my opinion, Julie is the strongest clinician, but I'm biased and I'm completely biased. I've just seen some of her lectures, her presentations, and her practice of interventions, and she's almost like a ninja. You don't even know what she's doing until it's too late. Like she's right. By the time you figure out what she's trying to do, there's no escape. It's just incredible with the way she speaks. She's incredibly talented, very intelligent woman and just an incredibly gifted clinician. John is a researcher. And so John has conducted research with over 3,000 couples. And some of them he's done research for 20 years with. That's incredible. Like the nerdy side of me right now is like so excited and so happy to share this information with you. In my PhD program, we're barely like getting introduced to statistics and research. That's what a PhD program is research. And this man has really just invested a lifetime doing research for the benefit of others, right? In the helping profession. So these are just some of the awards that they have received individually. They're both writers, right? They're both creators. And like I said, I feel like the world of psychology is looking at them anytime we want to discuss what has to do with marriage and family therapy. The Gottmans are the it, right? If you're doing marriage and family therapy or any kind of marriage and family counseling, you need to know who these people are. We are moving on from our quick presentation to their biggest work, which is the Love Labs. So the Love Labs was a project that was started by Dr. Gottman in the University of Washington in the late 80s. And in this Love Lab, they would invite couples to spend a weekend and during that weekend, they were recorded in every room of the lab, right? It was like a simulation, like a little home, and the couples were invited to live there, and they were being recorded, and everything was being observed, their body language, their tone of voice, their behavior towards each other. They were even hooked up to machines that would monitor their heart rate. And so they wanted to know if physiologically they were responding to the moment and how that looked for people. Like if your hubby was raising your blood pressure, like they could actually see it because they had the data to see it. Right. And so, like I said before, and John was able to study over 3,000 couples, some of them for over 20 years. And what we were able to do with this is that now we have tangible, measurable, mathematical data equations. We can now make um, elaborate calculations of the possibilities of how certain behaviors and certain, um, you know, just responses to one another affect the marriage for the good or for the bad. These are numbers. Like, this is not just touchy-feely stuff. Like, we have scientific proof of the information that we're sharing with you guys. And that is all thanks to the work of John Gottman. We also have good information obtained from what he called the marriage masters or relational masters. And this was what is working, what is good, what are these couples doing, what can we learn from them, what do we want to be able to teach and reproduce, what do we want to see more of. So Love Labs, very, very incredible project that has given us a wealth of knowledge. Wealth of knowledge. And so one of the books that you're going to be using for this course is The Seven Principles of Making Marriage Work. And this was written by John and Julie. And it is a constellation of quizzes, advice, and it is all composed from the research that came directly from the Love Labs. Now, the book that's used for this course, you're going to look at it and it's going to be user-friendly, easy to read, enjoyable, funny, quirky. You're going to kind of get a feel for their personalities as you read it. But I want you to know that what you're reading is a very, like I said, user-friendly um, interpretation of what their work actually is. So this is one of their clinical training manuals that I had to use. This is only level 2, but they have up to level 5. And as you can see, it's a little thick. There's some stuff in here. Um, but this is only one of the clinical manuals where the research is explained and the interventions are taught, and worksheets were given to us because we're practicing in the field. But each course costs thousands of dollars. I think I paid almost $4,000 for each one of those courses, and it was months of studying, and people were teaching us how to do the interventions, and it's a very intricate. So I don't want you to believe that I'm like hyping this couple up because they wrote one book. Like, they wrote the books. Okay. And so I just I wanted you to take a little look at some of their work. And these are just some reviews about their writing. And we really do hope that as you read the book and you go through the course, that you are encouraged and that you enjoy it and that you feel like you got a lot out of it. One of the things that the Gottmans also do very well, am I in your way? Myself a little bit. One of the things that the Gottmans also do very well is that they utilize positive psychology. And so in our field, we do a lot of pathologizing, right? We look at a disease and we diagnose it, and then we treat it, right? We diagnose and we treat it because that's what we do. We're part of the medical profession too, right? There's something wrong, we identify it, we create a treatment plan, and we attack it, right? We're trying to treat an ailment, right? But they went the opposite direction. While they give us an understanding of the things that are wrong, um, they give us a bigger understanding of the things that are good. And so what is positive psychology, right? It's a scientific study of human flourishing. It's an applied approach that gives us optimal functioning, right? It factors in essential components that help us thrive, such as happiness and well-being, positive emotion, engagement, meaning, relationship, accomplishment. All those are terms and themes that we see in positive psychology. And so what he is doing is that he's not just communicating a problem, he's giving us a solution. He's telling us what we can do to make things different, right? And this is incredible because it also ties into Christian themes such as hope and redemption and salvation and right, like being made new, right? If we had to explain some of these Christian themes to someone who's secular or wouldn't understand us, we would utilize positive psychology to try to explain these themes to them um, as best we could, right? Because how could we explain those great things? Um, but yes, that's something that they've also done very well is utilize positive psychology instead of just like pathologizing, the human experience. So one of the things that the Gottmans are also known about and known for, and you're going to see again throughout your lectures, is the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And it's so dramatic. It's so dramatic. But we have them here, and they are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And so these are the four horsemen that Dr. Gottman um, has identified as destroyers of a marriage or any relationship, really. Um, and so one of them is criticism, right? Which is a form of blame. You always do this, and you never do that, and you're so this, and you're so that, right? And criticism happens a lot in interpersonal relationships. It happens in marriage, it happens with your children, it happens with your friends, I guess. I hope not. Um, but that's one of the horsemen of the apocalypse is criticism, right? When you're constantly criticizing someone or constantly receiving criticism from someone, um, that's going to damage their relationship. The next one is contempt, right? And it is identified here as a form of hiding, right? But it often turns out and looks like verbal abuse, right? And it offers no opportunity for reconciliation. There's nothing you can do to fix it. There's nothing you can do for me to change the way that I see you, to change my opinion about you. It's pointing out every single thing that's wrong and making you feel bad, right? I am now attacking you, not just criticizing you, I'm attacking you as much as I can. We also have defensiveness, right? And defensiveness is like you're constantly protecting yourself from what somebody else does or doesn't say, right? Because sometimes it in the tone or the interpretation of the tone is different than what's actually happening. My husband can be saying something to me that, just because he needs to say it to me, but I'm interpreting it as him trying to harm me, right? He's trying to cause harm to me. And so I'm going to be defensive. My walls are up. I'm ready, right? Like throw the first hit. Watch what's gonna happen. I'm I'm waiting for you to strike. I know you're gonna strike. Nothing that you do or say will convince me that you're not out to get me. You're out to get me, right? Excuse me while I'm moving my things around. My paperwork. And the last one is stonewalling. Um, Stonewalling really is when someone stops speaking, right? I am no longer answering to you no matter what you're saying. I'm no longer looking at you. There's probably some physical distance that I'm creating from you. Like I'm going to go into another room, right? Or I'm going to leave the house. Um, and not like I'm trying to calm down and I'll be back and we're going to be okay. It's like I'm leaving the house. We're not talking about this anymore. Like I'm leaving you high and dry. And really, the reason why people stonewall is because they're overwhelmed by the emotion. Um, they have become so overly stimulated that they can no longer respond to the present moment. And so, really, this is a way of running away. And while it may seem like they're being very cruel and just awful and just leaving you there, you're really overwhelmed and have no other way um, to express it or to communicate it, right? There will be some more videos about each one of these because, again, like I said earlier, there you can find books and books and books about these terms. This is just a little synopsis, but we'll be posting more videos for you guys so that you can get more examples. Also, if you want to utilize YouTube, you can actually see real film from the Love Labs, actual recording from the Love Labs, poor quality, but they're there, and how each one of these look like in real scenarios. Because one of the things about the Love Labs is that um, while we can fake it for a minute, right? I'm gonna be embarrassed. I don't want to show you like, I don't want to show you who I am. Um, I can be embarrassed to like act crazy in front of the camera, but at some point I'm gonna be myself. And people did really show all of these things. And so I would encourage you, yes, go on YouTube, look for these, look for the Love Lab videos, and then specifically each one of the horsemen. Again, self-awareness is super important as we viewed the horsemen. I was wondering if you could identify which one you use the most. And the reason why I say the most is because we do use them because we are human and we live in a fallen world. And we use them unknowingly. Again, we go back to family systems. What did we learn from our family? What was normalized by our family? Um, which ones do you see yourself in? I'm very curious. Research shows that stonewalling is actually identified in 85% of the men that were studied. So it is a man thing. That's just kidding. Women do it too. But if you saw it, you identified it. Don't be alarmed. Um, something to something to take a note of as we're moving forward. Okay. Um, the Gottmans also talk about predictors of divorce, and predictors of divorce were identified as harsh startups, the four horsemen, flooding, bad memories, and failed repair attempts. And so, harsh startups are really about the way that you start a conversation or an argument, right? Um, Research shows that 96% of the time, we can tell how the conversation is going to end within the first 3 minutes. The first 3 minutes of observing a conversation, we know where this is going. Um, and it has to do with that, right? We can talk about anything, but how are we going to talk about it? We can address all the issues, but how are we going to address them? If I have something very important to say, I may want to make sure that I am maybe not too stressed out, maybe well rested, maybe I've eaten, I've slept, and I've taken care of myself enough so that when I'm approaching this conversation with my husband, I'm doing it in the wisest way possible, right? Um, and especially like this is my husband, so whatever I'm bringing up, it's important to me because I'm talking to the most relevant person in my life, right? It's my husband. And so any conversation that we have that's serious might get really passionate, really heated because it's so important to me, right? But because it is important, he is important, it is also essential that I understand that harsh startups are going to get me nowhere. And the more we have them, the larger there's a predictor of divorce over our family. The four horsemen, as we said before, they're deadly to any relationship when they're allowed to just run rampant, right? They're just doing their thing all over the place. We don't want to do that. And so while they're there, because we're human, we want to diminish them or eliminate them as much as possible. Flooding, this one, when I think about flooding, I think about stonewalling, and those have to be connected. Flooding is being suddenly overwhelmed by a rush of feelings. And you can see in an argument when someone starts like hyperventilating, you can see it in their body, you can see it in their facial expression. Sometimes their eyes are open wide, like their body language is telling you, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overwhelmed. And there's only so much someone can take of that because your body is literally like glitching on you. It's not healthy. So we don't want to see that. We don't want to provoke that. And we don't want to be in that space either, right? Another one is bad memories. And so, do we all have bad memories? Yes, we do. We do. We do, because such is life, right? Um, but if we have a shared history that in which we focus on all of the lows, right? All of the mistakes we've made, all of the ways we've hurt each other, all of the bad things we're going through, and we've seemed to have forgotten all the good things. Um, And we've flooded our history with bad memories. Our shared meaning has become just like depressive story, right? So we need to be able to form positive memories, good memories, and highlight them, make them really big, really noticeable. We also have failed repair attempts, and you're going to read about that in the book. What is a repair attempt? What do they look like in different couples? But basically, and because it's okay to argue and it's okay to have differences of opinion and differences of thought and even like worldviews, that's okay. Um, but when we're in a heated argument, one of us or both of us has to make the attempt to repair the relationship because arguing is kind of like you're taking a blow at the relationship. So we have to try to make a repair attempt. You have to try to say a joke or notice something good or make a compliment or in some way, shape, or form shift the mood of your partner. Um, but when you have tried to do that, or your partner tries to do that over and over and over, and they are rejected or they are like noticed and ignored, or sometimes not even noticed at all, um, that's a bad indicator. That is a bad indicator of yours. I'm sorry that I'm laughing. You can see my daughter in the back just kind of walking through, exploring my room. Um, but failed repair attempts hurt a relationship and are a predictor of divorce. If your partner is trying to shift the mood and you're constantly being rejected, or you're rejecting them, it's not good. So, what makes a marriage work? And here I am in the way. What makes a marriage work? The Gottmans identify many, many things, but again, we're gonna focus on just a few. Oh, Penny wants to say hi. Oh, our other baby. Penny, our little Yorkie. Say hi, Penny. Say hi. Okay, getting her some love. So, what makes a marriage work? One of a very powerful piece of knowledge that we want to share with you is that you must understand that 70% of marital arguments cannot be solved. These are what we call he called it like a specific term. They're perpetual issues They will show up in your marriage when you are 20, when you are 30, when you are 50, when you are 70, when you are 80. These perpetual issues will continue to auto-populate, right? And you're not going to solve them. There's no resolution, and they're going to go on both sides. And so to believe that all arguments need to be solved, or even that the majority of your arguments need to be solved, is erroneous, right? It's not true. It's not going to happen. Sorry, guys. It's not going to happen. All right. So it's important to know that. Um, and that's okay. It's okay if they're not resolved. The foundation of your marriage, right, will be one thing. Um, all the other stuff can kind of linger as long as the foundation is strong, right? So those 70%, you guys are going to have to figure it out and learn how to let them go. Identify them as soon as possible and use the repair attempts as they keep coming up, because you need to know that saving the relationship is more important, right? The sacred marriage is more important. Um, Another thing is deep friendship. There has to be something about your partner that you really enjoy, right? Um, yes, are we physically attracted to each other? Sure, why not? Yeah, that's a good thing, right? Being sexually and physically attracted to your partner, those are all good things. Um, but there has to be a deep friendship. I have to think that you're funny and you're intelligent, and I like the way that you see life, and I like the way that you worship, and I like the way that you relate to our children, and I like the way that I like your work ethic, and there has to be other things um, that bind us together. We need to have a deep friendship. We need to know each other and actually enjoy each other. Another thing is shared meaning. And that has to do with creating a story together. I like to see it like a love story, right? But it's really just creating a story together. Our lives mean something. There's a reason why God brought us together. What is it? Shared meaning, we see it a lot in religious couples and their faith, right? We see their faith as the theme of shared meaning. Um, but even for non-religious couples, um, what is your story? What is your story? Are you creating good memories, right? Um, that you know for a fact that your life would have deficits if this person wasn't with you. Sure. There has to be a positive sentiment override. What does that mean? Are you gonna make me angry? Yes. Or am I gonna get angry at things that you do because I'm responsible for my own emotions? Yes. May I become annoyed? Yes. My feelings will fluctuate because I'm human. And will you sometimes hurt me? Yes. And will you make mistakes? Yes. And will the opposite be the same? Yes. But at the end of the day, I know that you're a good person. And you know that I'm a good person. And you know that I would never do anything on purpose to cause you harm, that even the things that have hurt you have been because of my ignorance or um, whatever it may be, but I would never do something to hurt you. So at the end of the day, whatever's going on, we have to have a positive override of sentiment for our partner. I know you are good. There has to be a bunch of successful repair attempts, a bunch of them. They need to be sprinkled all over your story, all over your household. I'll share one with you. I'm not trying to keep it from you guys. I honestly don't remember why me and my husband were arguing, but we were arguing. And he was so upset. And I don't know what I did to him, because let me tell you, my husband is as cool as a cucumber. I'm the more like hot-tempered individual in this relationship. He was heated, and we were arguing, and I was wearing his sandals, and um, he looked down at my feet and he saw these little chubby toes, these little chubby feet, and this like ridiculously large sandal. Your feet fit probably two of my feet in each of the sandal. And he just laughed so hard. Like like this genuine, like a belly laugh, right? And I was offended, of course, because I don't know why he's laughing because I'm angry. But I looked down and just the vision, like the vision was hilarious. And he told me, he said, I get your little tiny feet in my sandals. And we just laughed and laughed and laughed. I could have ignored it, I could have ignored him. I could have kept on arguing. I could have made it worse. I could have gotten offended. How dare you make fun of me, right? Um, but I chose to accept the repair attempt, right? And he chose to move in my direction when he laughed. He could have decided to continue to be angry, but he decided and said, I'm gonna laugh. This is important. This is funny. This is funny. Um, and so you have to have a lot of successful repair attempts all over the place. Okay. Another thing that's really important is parting and reunion. So our parting is important because we leave our homes, right? But our reunion is important because we come back to our homes, right? So what he means with parting is that before we leave, we're connecting. Maybe we're sharing something that's going to happen throughout the day, or something that we're looking forward to, or something that we're going to do. And that's one way to kind of stay connected, even though we're moving away from each other. But then the reunion, right? We're going to come back together. We're going to reunite. And so when we do, it's almost like thinking about making your partner happy that they're coming back home, right? Or your partner be making it a favorable environment for you to return to the home. And so what happens when we're home after a long day of work? We're tired, we're stressed, we're hungry, we're angry, we're not the best version of ourselves. We are all over the place, right? And just to be very aware of that, be aware that you are in that space and be aware that your partner is in that space. So make an effort to reunite, right? Give your partner a favorable experience to come home to, whatever that may be. Something so simple. Put on a cup of coffee because they drink coffee. Start brewing some tea. Make sure food is ready, or if you can, whichever partner, right? Um, or whatever. Make sure that their sandals are out to receive whatever you got, whatever your thing is, right? Um, let them know that you're ready to watch that Netflix show you guys have been dying to binge on, whatever that may look like. Do it. Parting is important and reunion is important. Admiration. Show that you admire your partner and use your words to acknowledge your admiration. Express to them your admiration. So, for example, once again, me and my husband, we are very traditional Mexican within our household, but a lot of the things we've kind of flipped around just because we are modern, right? Um, and I spoke about our levels of acculturation in the previous lecture, but I really admire the way my husband connects to the children. I really admire the way that he steps up to be a nurturing and present father, especially in seasons where I a little bit more pulled by work, right? And so I am very open and very generous in expressing that admiration to him, and how much it means to me, to them, to our family unit, and just what a wonderful blessing that it's going to be for our generations to come. So use your words and express your admiration to your partner. Affection, touch each other, hug, kiss, play, whatever it is that you guys do. Be affectionate. Show your partner that you are still into them, so marriages that work are marriages that show their partner's affection, whatever that may look like for that couple. And the last one we're going to go through is dates. Dates are so important. And they need to be like a for sure thing, right? They don't need to happen every week, although some couples can do it every week, and others can only do it bi-weekly, but they need to be planned and they need to be present and they need to be consistent. That's the word I'm looking for. The dates need to be consistent. Both partners need to be expecting them and know that these dates are coming. Why? Because it helps us. It's an opportunity for us to have fun, to see ourselves outside of the role of parents or disciplinarians or sharers of bills and whatever, responsible adults. We can just have fun and we can be romantic and we can be playful, and it's good for our emotional well-being. We can feel wanted and desired, and both sexes need that. Both men and women need that. So dates need to be present and they need to be consistent. Um, and they can look like whatever it needs to look like for that season in your life. And so with this, we're going to wrap up our second lecture for week 2. We will continue to talk about the Gottmans in the following week as we move forward through the material.